And here we are with part 2. All right, so what I just talked about that I missed was, that is not on the recording, is we talked about our task here. I need to help. This guy is a data task with request, and then it gives a definition of the type, the completion handler, and all that good stuff. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to have the view controller tell the OS that it is an observer for a particular event, and the event that it's going to observe for is going to be when the stores are done loading. So that task completes, and it returns out of that, returns out of the main function. We need to know about that. So we're going to create a function here. Right now I'm just going to create a dummy function because we don't have everything yet that we need, but I'm going to create a function called stores loaded that is going to be what we're going to call after this method returns. Right now we just need an empty method, empty function body. And then up here, we're going to call NS Notification Center, which is part of the Grand Central Dispatch, kind of the nervous system for messaging within the OS. And we're going to call the default center, and what we want is add observer. So what we're saying is we want to be an observer waiting for an event. The observer is the target, that's us. And then the selector is basically, that means the method. So when it says selector, that's talking about the method name that we're going to use. We have to use the syntax here. So I can't even begin to describe this. What this basically is saying, and this is like a pre-compiler directive, that when you compile this app, this basically is going to insert a method body in here. So that's why you got the goofy pound notation there. And then the selector, the object, this is the actual name of the event that we're going to call. And it is going to be stores loaded, like that. All right, so that is basically saying this is the event that we're going to, or the function we're going to call when this event fires and we catch it. The next thing is the name of the event. So this is how it knows what to look for. This is the event name. And we'll say done with stores. This is the name of our event. And the object is any special user data, which we don't have. And that's it. So if you don't have anything running, like if you don't actually fire this event, nothing happens. It doesn't crash the app. No bad things or ill tidings occur. It just doesn't do anything. Okay, so that is one half of what we need to do. This is saying set me up as an observer for this. Now, when we're down here and we're done at this point in the game, this is where we want to post the notification to the operating system and say, okay, I'm done, I'm ready, and then it'll get caught up here in this observer. The observer will find it and it'll call this guy. I think. I'm hoping. All right, so down here in our do, this is where we're going to create an object of type NS notification. And we want the parameter name, an object. So the name is, again, going to be this name up here, done with stores. Object is nil. This is the part where you would, this object would align with the object up here, but we're not passing anything. All right, so that creates the actual notification. Then we need to call NS notification center dot default center again dot post notification, passing in the notification we just created. So we're doing all this because of the fact that this task is running on its own thread in the background, and so the user interface really doesn't have any knowledge of it. It just kind of fires off the task, and then it goes about its merry business, displaying the map, handling user interaction, and all that stuff. So we could probably actually run this, let the breakpoint get hit, and then see the threads that are running, so you can see what's going on. I'm going to delete this breakpoint. And then the other thing I want to do is demonstrate that we do actually get in here. Breakpoint there, breakpoint there. I think we're good.
Doesn't like our initial NS notification center.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have the same problem.
What does it do? Does it give you a compiler error?
Where you have your.
Saying where the hashtag is, you need a comma before it.
Okay. Hang on just a second and we'll get to that. So over here, I just want to go over this real quick. So here we are, get list of stores is running in thread 12. Thread 1 is the thread that started up the app. So we got our UI application main up there. And these guys might be blank. Network load, connection loader. So there's some stuff in there. So anyway, these are the things that are going on currently with our app. So I'm going to let it run. And then here we are. We're in stores loaded. So I called the stores loaded method using our notification method. So that's what we wanted to do. That's as far as I wanted to get for right now. Is anyone else having an error with this NS notification center default center stuff?
Yeah.
You guys are or not having an error?
Yeah.
Okay. What is the, I'll have a look at it and see what the error says.
Says fix it.
No, don't do that.
I tried.
That's a useless suggestion. Adding parenthesis at the end of it all was. Let's see. Now what is it saying? If you click on the error, no, there is no. Okay, so what version of Xcode do you guys have?
Where do I find
About Xcode.
that? It says about.
721. That could possibly be it. All right, so close that. And then where you have the selector, fancy stuff, just get rid of that from the pound sign over to the end of the parenthesis, right before the comma. Yep, right to there. Delete that and put in quotes. What do we call this? Stores loaded, I think. Yeah, just like
Sure.
that. There. All right, so if you have that error, that is because of Apple being Apple and in consistent versions of the of Xcode. So if you have the error, get rid of this part from selector over to the end of the parenthesis and just replace it with a string that says, basically just put quotes around stores loaded. After where it says selector colon, just put stores loaded. I can actually do it here, but it's going to give me an error. So basically, this is the syntax you'll need. It doesn't actually give me an error; it gives me a warning. But so the reason why. So I have 7.3. If you're running 7.2, you'll probably get the error if you use that selector notation that I used. It's a deprecated, this method of calling it with the quotes is a deprecated method. And in fact, I think, if I remember right, when I originally did it, I actually got an error. So like the 7.3.2 or whatever the latest version of Xcode is, I think it won't even like let you do that. But this is a deprecated method that they're obviously phasing out really quickly. So just put the quotes around it and it should be fine. And then try running it and see if it works if you get into the stores loaded. Hopefully you do. You guys able to, does it run? Okay. So a little bit of Apple fun. If you update Xcode, then you got to change it back to the goofy pound notation that I showed you. This is actually, this style with the quotes is actually an old Objective-C throwback. Let's see what it says here. Yeah, use of literal Objective-C selectors is deprecated. Use pound selector. Unless, of course, you happen to be on the most recent version before this, in which case you got to use this. All right, so there's that. All right, so the store is loaded. This is where we're going to take our list of stores. We're going to pull the data out of them, and we're going to create map markers and plop them on the map. So we have some work to do. So the next thing we're going to do, Apple is a little bit weird about the map markers. They give you a default one, which is it's actually called an MK annotation. That's the class type. MK annotations are kind of bare bones, not a lot of functionality out of the box. So if you want to create your own special kind of annotation that has the information that you want displayed, or you want to use a custom image, you have to drive your own class to do it. So what we'll do is that. We'll do a new file. This can just be a Swift file. I'm not using the UI view stuff. And we will call this store marker. I think I hit something by accident. Store marker. And wonderful Xcode fashion, it just gives you that. So we also need to import MapKit. And then we need to declare a class because it didn't do it for us. So we'll call it store marker. Nope. Store marker with a capital M. This guy is going to be derived directly from NSObject. And then we also need to use the MK annotation because that's in a whole different library. So that's why we have that there. We need the NSObject for the basic NSObject stuff. Yeah, okay. So it doesn't conform to the protocol. Here we go with the protocol delicate thing again. As I mentioned before, Swift is single inheritance, so we're inheriting from this guy, we're implementing this guy. So there is a subtitle. All right, we'll get to that. We'll just leave the error there for right now. We'll get to it. So we're going to do this, let title, string, let location name is also a string. Phone, also a string. So it's real easy to handle this stuff if we have created nothing but strings in the API, which is what we did. Makes it easier to handle. And then the coordinate, which tells it where it is. This is a CLL, location, coordinate 2D. Location. I goofed up with I got one too many L's. CL, location. This guy down here. There. So now, the thing that it's balking about that we need to implement is this. To be a good functioning MK annotation protocol, you need to implement this. And what else do you not like? Has no initializers. Okay, so the other thing it needs to have, because it's derived from NS object, is it needs an initializer. So the initializer is basically the constructor. So we need to create an init method. And you can create, that's weird, my mouse just jumped up. You can create an init method with pretty much any way you want. It just has to say init, it has to have the keyword init. And then it can be an empty init if you want, or it can be an init that takes parameters, but you need to have that defined somehow. So we're going to initialize our marker. So this is the little pin guy that we're going to drop on the map. We'll initialize it with the title, and we will use a location name. So basically we'll just initialize it with everything we need. And then the coordinate. And it doesn't like something about it. Okay, yeah, we'll get to that. All right. So I say self title equals title. So we're just going to initialize our variables. Self.location name equals location name. Self.coordinate equals coordinate. I suppose we have to, let's see if it wants this. No. Does it not like your... Oh, self.phone. Yeah, alright. Alright, let's try this. Nope. Self.phone.
You need phone in your string of the next.
Yeah, we can do it that way. Yeah, let's just do it that way. Let's just go ahead and add that up there. Phone string there. Let me say self.phone equals phone. There. Now it has everything to make it happy. So that's kind of what, when you create an init method like that, you have to make sure that all the stuff gets initialized one way or the other. So now we have an object of that type, so now we can create an array of these guys, plop them on our map from the return store data that we have. So going back in here, and our store is loaded, this is where all the magic's going to happen. All right. So we're going to need a loop. Now at this point, we know that the stores were loaded up because it posts that once it's done loading them. Once it's done setting them, it posts that. So one thing I bring your attention to too is you notice how fast that happens. It's like it takes a little while to make the call and get the data back, but once the data's back, the serialization part is like boom, it's like there. So it's pretty efficient that way. So we are guaranteed once we get in here that either, well, we're guaranteed that we have something because we're in the part of the method where everything succeeded. All right. So we can make that assumption for I in 0 to stores dot count. We can start looping through our store objects. Now remember, these guys at this point in the game are NS dictionary objects. Let S equals stores I as NS dictionary. How are we going to say I need? No, that's fine with that. Okay. All right, so now what we need to do is go back here and look at our data, because this is what we're going to pull out. We need the name. We need probably address 1. We need the phone. We need, where's our coordinates? We need our latitude and we need our longitude. Interesting that those are separated like they are, but that's what we're going to need to pull out of here. All right. It also has the distance, by the way, so we could use that, but probably not really necessary. What we could do after we're done with this is make an assignment that allows you to create a list of these guys in a tree or a table view controller. Then you tap on it, and then it takes you in the map. It's food for thought. Okay, so we can do this. A title. That'd be a pretty big assignment if I did that. S.object for key.
Sounds like a bad idea.
It sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah, not that I can.
So who all thinks it's a bad idea? I don't know, you're kind of on your own here. I think they're just being bashful about it, though. So that's our title. And we'll get this. I think address 1 is pretty much always filled. So another thing that we did when we created this API is we were very careful not to return null. And if you design an API yourself at some point in time, it's a good practice. So like for example, you'll see the district is empty, but it's an empty string. Like it is possible to actually have this be not an empty string at all, but just null. And that can cause issues with the client. If it's expecting something there and there's nothing, it can cause crashes. So good practice to always put, if there's nothing available, just put an empty string. So address 1, we get the location. So next thing to do is what's the latitude equals. This is going to be a double constructed from object for key latitude copying and pasting that for the longitude. It's longitude. Then we can create a coordinate from that. And we need the latitude, longitude constructor. Latitude and longitude. And we need a couple of exclamation points to make it all happy. All right. So the table, you don't like the idea of the table view.
Just messing with
No, that's all right. That's fine. You guys can maybe come up with a different suggestion while we're doing this. I'll think about it. Then we need the phone. Equals start object for key phone. That was phone, right? Let's see. Yep, it's phone. Okay. So now we have all the goodies we need to create one of these markers. So we can say let marker equals one of our store markers. Now because of our init that we defined, now it's available for us. So the title is going to be title. Location name is loc. Coordinate is coord. Bless you. And the phone is phone. That creates one of our markers. Then lastly, we need to add this guy to the map. So once we have an annotation, whether it is a base annotation of the type that that Swift makes, or whether it's our own, we can make the same call. It works the same either way. Self.mapView .add annotation and pass in our marker. And that will go ahead and add the marker in there. So at this point, what do you think it'll do if you run it? Any guesses?
It's markers on the map that you can hover over and see all that stuff coming.
Where are the markers?
Not in this area.
Yeah, you need to zoom way out. Oops, now it's finally got the... So it took a while to load that. So we're going to let this guy run through. Still no markers though, I'll guarantee you, because we got to zoom out to see them. There they are. So they're there. It's just that we have defined our region as having 2,000 meter radius in both directions. So in order to see our markers, we need to readjust. We need to adjust our map accordingly. So that's what I was getting at. That's what happens because we didn't adjust our map. So now what we need to do is we need to adjust it for our new distance. So we do have, in our return to JSON, we do have a distance in miles to each of these stores. 113, 29. So as you can see, the distance, these stores are returned in ascending order of distance away. So what we want to do is account for the farthest marker probably in our map, so that we know that we've got all the stores visible in our viewing area. And we also need to convert that from miles to meters. So we got a couple of fun things to do. There it is. All right, 1,609.34 meters to a mile. All right, so now that we know that. But we don't want to, okay, in our loop here, we need to get some of this data. So we need to be able to pull out the distance object out of our JSON, which is just the distance is the key. So we need to get that guy out, but we don't want to loop through and get it every single time. We need to be in the for loop because we need to actually get the store object out So we don't need to do it every time though. So what we can do is we can say if I, so if we're at the end of our loop equals stores count minus 1. So this is the last store, in other words. We know it's the one furthest away. You can say let distance equals double I think I can construct this from a string dot object for key distance as string. The reason I always do this as string thing is because this object for key just returns any object. There's like a generic object, you got to typecast it. All right, so there's our distance. Now we got this guy up here. Our center map on location. And we want to keep our location. We want to keep our location, but we want to change our radius. So this needs to change. Let's do this. View radius equals 2000. And then we'll change this to be view radius. And then I get back to where I started from. Type, oh, yeah, okay. All right, so let's, all right, fine. I thought that took a couple of doubles. I'm starting to really hate this method. All right. So we'll go back to that, but then this guy needs to change to a var. So we can modify it. So that's all fine and well. We can do that. All right. So now what we need to do, we know how big to make our radius. So once we did get that, we need to set this variable and then call the center map on location. All right. So we need to do our 1609.34. All right. I'm gonna need to make this a var also. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Okay, so that is, we need to multiply that guy times 1,609. You could make that a constant value. That's 1,609. And what's it not like in here? Kind of convert type double to let's try this. Distance equals distance times 1,609. Oh, whatever. Okay. We got there. All right. So now we can say, actually, I'm being a total buffoon. I don't even need to do this. I can set our global variable to be that, location distance to be that. There. So that's going to be a big number because our furthest store is like 172 miles. We're multiplying that by 1609, but that should be okay. Then we can say self.center map on location. And then CLL location, coordinate 2D. Actually, no, just CLL location. And latitude is self.lat. And longitude is self.longitude. Oops. All right. So what we're doing then is we're keeping our location, our current location, but we're just expanding our distance. All right, well, let's see if that works. There's a lot of things I'm not sure about there. Let's see if this actually flies. Excuse me. I choked to death. All right, here we go. All right, so we have some markers, not all visible though. Close, but not quite. But it's close. So we can tweak that a little bit. Let's go ahead and where we got the 1609. It's the point 34 that I'm missing. That's why it's not. We can change that out to 2000 maybe. There they are. All right, so that took a while. So let's try a couple of things here to try and speed this bad boy up a little bit. Because that's quite a wait. Let's change this from UCIIS to PCIIS. That's the first thing we can do. Significance of that is that PCIS is our production server. Runs faster than the UAT server. See if that speeds it up a little bit. Yep, quite a bit. The other thing that we can do to speed things up is there's a transition period that takes place between the operating system has to do thread switching. So when it's done with this in the background, it's like, okay, now I'm done with this. I need to switch back to the foreground thread because this stuff here is happening in the foreground, and it can't technically happen. It's kind of in a little bit of a block state until we switch from the background thread to the foreground thread. So there's a trick here to speed this up a little bit. The thread switching. Call dispatch underscore async. This is actually like a real low-level C call. And we're going to call dispatch another C routine get main queue. And then the block, this guy here, is actually our method. So this is going to be like this. And then all sorts of horrible things happen. I'm going to put the closing paren, that there, maybe. Get rid of that. And that didn't get rid of my problems. I think that's got to go there, or is that too? Yeah, I think that's, no, that's not. That's why. It's got to go outside the for loop. Maybe not. All right, let's see. I'm gonna get my curly braces lined up right here. I'm just all over the place. I'm out of control. All right. So this closes off the if statement. This guy here. That's the for loop. So this should be that. What are you not liking about this? Oh, okay. I see. All right. The reason what it's complaining about now is we basically gave this block of code in here a thread context. So in order for this to properly resolve things like variables like stores, you have to put self in front of stuff now. All right. Getting a little crazy here. We'll see if this works. Either it's going to run pretty fast or it's going to not run at all. All right. So sped it up even more, so fast, in fact, that the markers get plopped down there before it can actually render the map. So just a little trick. This guy just guarantees that the UI thread gets swapped out very quickly. Like I say, these are C routines. So Swift is kind of built around Objective-C, and Objective-C is kind of built around C, so you get all this powerful functionality. If you want to go all the way down to the lowest level and muck around with this stuff, you can tweak it a little bit. The last thing I was thinking of adding, but we're kind of out of time, was I was going to add a little wait screen to kind of with a activity indicator to show that processing is going on. But now that we've got this thing running screaming fast, we probably don't even need to do that. So everyone get theirs to run. All right. Any questions? Valerie.
I have a problem where my if statement starts. If I delete stores.count is minus one. That's not lighting up. It's on black text, so
Oh.
it's something wrong. So,
Yeah, you got some nasties there. What I would do is make sure everything's saved, close out of Xcode, stop the simulator, go back into Xcode, because sometimes that'll happen. The other thing that you can do in instances like that is the simulator data. You can go before you close down the simulator. Well, stop the app, but then go into simulator and reset content and settings. That clears out any simulator data. And then the last thing, if it still doesn't want to load correctly with the syntax highlighting, is if you go into, oh gosh, let's see, where is that now? There's a folder called derived data that I thought was underneath the library, but it's not. But anyway, if you delete that folder, sometimes that clears out Xcode and forces it to refresh itself. Try closing it down and then bring it back up, stop the simulator, bring it back up, see if that works. And then the other thing to do would be do a product clean and then a build. If that still doesn't work, then I can have a look at it. Sometimes Xcode's got a bug where every now and then you'll have a syntax error and it doesn't catch the syntax error, it just removes all of your syntax highlighting. It's kind of fun. Anyone else have any, while we're waiting, anyone have any questions or problems? This method here actually is fairly commonplace to use when you've got an asynchronous load going on. We use it quite a bit at work. It just, in this case, it speeds it up a little bit, but in some cases it actually speeds it up a lot. If you have multiple threads running in the background especially, it really speeds things up. All right, otherwise, if not, I'm going to stop the recording while I can, and then I'll help out Valerie, maybe. So going once, going twice. All right.